here to remember that you are my Father.
Good morning, my name is Stephen Capaldo, and we'll continue the reading that we're doing. We're reading the Bible in a year, more or less, and just taking different portions of it every day, every week, and we're doing today the poetry section. Job is considered a book of poetry for reasons which I hope eventually to research and study and learn, but it has to do with the form in which the verses are written. But we're in the poetry section of our readings this day of this week, and so we'll be reading from Job chapters 3 and 4. After this, Job opened his mouth. So there's always a problem there. When you open your mouth, you always have to be careful. But he opened his mouth and cursed the day of his birth. See, he opened his mouth, he couldn't keep his mouth shut, and he cursed the day of his birth. And if you curse the day of your birth, I mean, think about it. You're saying God made a mistake, right? I mean, God made a mistake letting you see the light of day, letting you be conceived and, go through all of that, gestation, and then you come into the world. But he cursed the day of his birth because he lost everything. This is just, we've done chapters 1 and 2 and how Job really lost everything. He was upright and faithful and everything. God really couldn't find fault with him, and yet God let him be tested and let him lose everything. And now he's cursing the day of his birth, Job is. And Job said, "Let the day perish on which I was born." Nowadays, what would you say? "I wish I'd never been born," something like that. "And the night that said a man is conceived, let that day be darkness." That's a great day of infamy in history. That's what he's saying. Let that day be darkness. And see all these images of death and darkness. May God above not seek it, nor light shine upon it. Let gloom and deep darkness claim it. You see, the way my life has turned out, it's all death and darkness and gloom. It has nothing to do with light and nothing to do with God. Let gloom and deep darkness claim it, let the clouds dwell upon it, let the blackness of the day terrify it. That night, let thick darkness seize it. Let it not rejoice among the days of the year, let it not come into the number of the months. So he's actually proposing a calendar change. If his birthday was, today's July 15th, it's like he's saying here, we should get rid of the day July 15th. Let that day live in infamy. It's a day of death and darkness and gloom. That day should not exist anymore. We remove July 15th from the calendar. Behold, let that night be barren. Let no joyful cry enter into it. That my mother and father would not have conceived. This is the wish. Let those curse it who curse the day, who are ready to rouse up Leviathan, the monster. Let the stars of its dawn be dark. Let it hope for light, but have none. Nor see the eyelids of the morning, because it did not shut the doors of my mother's womb, nor hide trouble from my eyes. And so his mother's womb should have been shut because he's had all these troubles in life. So this is really when someone loses a lot or loses everything. We get down. Even if we lose something like he lost a whole fortune. You might lose a relationship or a job or something like that, or a loved one dies. You've got one thing that is very hard to deal with, and you kind of wonder how you're going to go on. Now he lost everything. He lost his fortune. So he's thinking he should not even have been born. But really, God is going to show at the end of all this that it doesn't matter. Even if you lost everything, it can be restored. There's no reason. There's no reason, and it's contrary to the word, really, to keep bemoaning the fact that you were born. It's like saying that God made a mistake, and he made a mistake to enrich you, to allow you to acquire riches, and he made a mistake to allow you to lose the riches, and he made a mistake to allow you to reacquire the riches. When will people understand, is really what God is going to be saying, is when will people understand that nothing is random. Like it's not the fix is in, you have free will, but nothing is random. Everything is planned in the creative balance and design of the universe that is God's creation, and nothing everything happens because it's part of God's design, right? So really there's no need. If something good happens, great or small, something bad happens, great or small, there's really no need to bemoan God. And this is, we're all guilty of doing this from time to time. But God is really trying to say, no, whatever the good or bad is, great or small, I'm still God, and I'm still with you, and everything that I do is for my divine creative purpose, and it all fits into a plan, and it's all mathematically balanced, or however God reckons those things. It all works out. All things work for good for those who love Him, right? Why did I not die at birth? Now this is sort of the first drama queen, right? Why did I not die at birth, come out from the womb and expire? Why did the knees receive me? All right, so this is really the pity party, right? And this is chronologically, this is usually thought to be the first book chronologically, that was written, and he's in full self-pity here. Or why the breasts that I should nurse? Yeah, get those things out of my face, right? For then I would have lain down and been quiet. I would have slept, then I would have been at rest. I would have slept, I would not have lived, I would have died, right? With kings and counselors of the earth who rebuilt ruins for themselves, or with princes who had gold, who filled their houses with silver, or why was I not as a hidden stillborn child, as infants who never see the light? So why I see the light and then die, and then I'm with all these kings with their gold and silver, and then again, that's God is telling you that's the real currency of the earth, is the natural resources, gold and silver. Why was I not as a hidden stillborn child, as infants who never see the light? There the wicked cease from troubling, and there the weary are at rest. There the prisoners are at ease together. They hear not the voice of the taskmaster. But this is not God's plan for you. I mean, He has people that He puts them on earth for a certain time, and then He takes them back. But God is saying, He has a unique destiny for each individual, and it's pointless to say why was I born, or why was I not born and then taken away immediately, and why can I not go home and be with all the successful or unsuccessful, the good and the bad people, but just be away from this earth. This is his lament. The small and the great are there, and the slave is free from his master. Why is light given to him who is in misery, and life to the bitter in soul, who long for death, but it comes not, and dig for it more than for hidden treasures? So longing for death, I mean, this is really totally not what God wants us to do. That if you say that I really would like to die, really that is contrary to God's will. And we've probably all thought I'd like to go home and be with the Lord or something like that, but that's like saying I'd like to die physically, right? I mean, so really it's God wants you to enjoy and love and work, for His purposes, for the life that He gives you. He gives you a certain number of days in this life, and whatever it is, He wants you to be productive, divinely productive and spiritually productive for Him. This is His hope, is that you will believe in Him and trust Him, and go about your life's business as one of His people, and not be longing for death and always complaining the way we all do. We all do it, but I mean the idea is that we shouldn't be doing it, right? Who rejoice exceedingly and are glad when they find the grave. Why is light given to a man whose way is hidden, whom God has hedged in? For my sighing comes instead of my bread, and my groanings are poured out like water. For the thing that I fear comes upon me, and what I dread befalls me. I am not at ease, nor am I quiet. I have no rest, but trouble comes. He has no peace because of all the troubles he's had. He lost family, he lost wealth, all of his animals and land and everything. I mean, everything was taken away. So the problem here, though, is that not only were his physical things taken away, now he is letting his mental and spiritual things be taken away. He's letting his joy and his peace mentally and spiritually be taken away. And he is desiring death, and because he has lost material things. But the material that's really the least important thing. The material is less important than the mental and the spiritual. But this is the one that we crave after, because we do need some physical things to sustain physical life on planet Earth. But God will provide those things if you believe, right? If you believe in Him and believe that He can and that He will, that He will provide those physical things. But we think that we have to go out and strive for and acquire more and keep more physical things to sustain physical life. It is true we need physical things. You need oxygen, right? You need You need food, you need water. I mean, you do need physical things to sustain physical life. But the misunderstanding that we have is we don't realize that God has planned for all that, and you need to believe that and walk in that. Align your activities for that. Whatever He has planned for you, just walk in that and let Him along the way meet the physical needs that will sustain you in physical life before the next life. So that's chapter 3. We go on to chapter 4. Then Eliphaz, this is one of his 3 so-called friends, with friends like these, right? Then Eliphaz the Temanite answered and said, "If one ventures a word with you, will you be impatient?" So he's already coming back with the accusations. I mean, he's not trying to be loving and supportive. Will you be impatient? Yet who can keep from speaking? Behold, you've instructed many, and you've strengthened the weak hands. Your words have upheld him who was stumbling, and you've made firm the feeble knees. But, there's always a but, now it has come to you, and you're impatient. So you cannot really live in what you teach. I mean, Eliphaz is basically calling Job a hypocrite, right? Is that, you've done things for other people when they were in distress. Now you're in distress, and you have no more faith. Your belief is gone. Your faith is gone. It touches you, and you're dismayed. Is not your fear of God your confidence and the integrity of your ways your hope? And Eliphaz is saying this is what it should be. I mean, you should have awesome, awe and reverence for God, and should have the integrity. That's your hope here, not the dismay and the grief that you're talking about. Remember, who that was innocent ever perished, or where were the upright cut off? Eliphaz's tone is very, he's got some truth there, but his tone is very kind of patronizing. It's kind of, he's the elder. He knows everything, right? As I have seen, those who plow iniquity and sow trouble reap the same. Now there we got the philosopher king here. By the breath of God they perish, and by the blast of His anger they are consumed. The roar of the lion, the voice of the fierce lion, the teeth of the young lions are broken. The strong lion perishes for lack of prey, and the cubs of the lioness are scattered. So he's trying to tell Job, just kind of suck it up, right? Now a word was brought to me stealthily. My ear received the whisper of it. Amid thoughts from visions of the night, when deep sleep falls on men, dread came upon me, and trembling, which made all my bones shake. And they talk about this sometimes, about this night fear or night dread or something like that. And, you have all kinds of negative imaginations at night, and not dreams. Sometimes it could be dreams, or it could be that you're lying awake and in the dark, and you're lying in darkness, so you're thinking dark thoughts. That type of thing happens. But really, that God is saying that this isn't reality. Reality is light. Reality is truth. Reality is the wisdom of the Word of God. A spirit glided past my face. The hair of my flesh stood up. It stood still, but I could not discern its appearance. A form was before my eyes. There was silence. Then I heard a voice. Can mortal man be in the right before God? Can a man be pure before his Maker? These are fair enough questions, but they're not really. He's supposed to be helping his friend. I mean, he's just asking all of these questions. It's kind of just he's giving a lecture, like he thinks he's a professor or something. He's throwing out all of these pearls of wisdom that he thinks are very spiritual, and there's some truth to them, but he's really just confounding the issue. Basically, Job has lost his way, in the sense that Job has lost his joy and his peace, because he has lost things in the physical realm, and so he needs to regain his joy and his peace by just going back to trusting God. I mean, all of these philosophical questions, I think Eliphaz is really making the discussion much more complicated than it needs to be. But God here is illustrating a good point, is that that's what we often do, is we try to intellectualize and psychologize and philosophize, and there's nothing wrong with the human knowledge, but here really Job's problem is a spiritual problem. Job's problem is that he's temporarily lost his relationship with God. Right? Even in his servants he puts no trust, and his angels he charges with error. How much more those who dwell in houses of clay, whose foundation is in the dust, who are crushed like the moth. So he's just running down Job. This is you, Job. You are crushed like the moth. Your foundation is in dust. You're dwelling in a house of clay, etc. Between morning and evening, they are beaten to pieces. They perish forever without anyone regarding it. So he's like he's pointing his finger, he's wagging his finger at Job. This is going to happen to you, or this is what's going on with you, right? So okay, he's trying to offer support and be a friend, and you can evaluate how useful that would be if you put yourself in a situation where you've suffered a loss. Perhaps nothing as catastrophic as what Job has suffered, which is catastrophic, there's no question about it. And then you have someone who's just kind of talking to you and not making you feel any better about the situation, doing whatever they do, saying whatever they say, they don't make you feel any better. And how does it make you feel? Well, that's probably a little bit what Job is feeling now, is that, if this is my friend, who is my enemy? Is not their tent cord plucked up within them? Do they not die in that without wisdom? So he's scolding him, warning him, this will be your fate as well, unless you do whatever. Unless, he's going to keep talking. But so anyway, those are chapters 3 and 4 of Job, and we'll continue with the reading the next time we meet. Thank you very much, and have a good day. Bye for now.